What's up, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. Hopefully, Jeremy will be able to join us soon. I'm not exactly sure what he's got going on. Probably doing more of that wedding stuff because, apparently to some people that kind of thing's, acceptable or important. But the rest of the crew is all here so we can talk about one of the cooler movies to come out of an already awesome decade of the 80s. Here with me, of course, is the Dowager Countess, Lady Cora. How are you doing tonight, ma'am?
I had a good day. It's good to be here. How are you?
You're not dealing. You're in a place where they don't deal with the kind of snow like you see in the background. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. I went to Costco today. Short sleeves and sandals. No jacket.
It actually got to be like 51 here today, and I was
well,
like,
let me tell you what our low tonight is going to be. Our low tonight is 48. So.
Oh no. Terrible being you.
I hear the fuck you in that. Yeah, I got it.
That's because it's there. You should go with that feeling. And of course, our good friend from down south, the Shapes of Lone Star State, my man Tex. What's up, brother?
Watching this film, it only proves my point of if you buy American, we don't have these problems that they do in this film. Just saying, I don't want to have to be that guy, but I know nobody else is going to point it out because, I'm not going to say the China virus kind of thing, but, there's a pattern developing here. So buy American.
Just saying we should have bought a Zenith. We should have bought a Zenith.
Just saying, if maybe we didn't go to Chinatown for a Christmas present.
What happened in 2020? That's a whole nother.
I'm not saying it did, and I'm not saying it didn't. I'm going to leave that up to you. But
You said it.
Just say it.
Simpsons can predict the future. Then why can't Gremlins?
I mean, we all know Hollywood and their CIA connections. Alex Jones taught us this years ago. So just saying.
You want to talk about Alex Jones? I got things to say.
And deputizing Alex
to
Jones.
Their friends without their wives' permission.
Deputizing Alex Jones in your argument does not always go well. So let's move on with the proceedings, shall we?
Hey, it's the first time. No, it's the first time Cora's been on a show with us in like 2 months because I don't like scary movies. I had to trigger her from the get-go. It's been too long. Okay, so.
Bad touch.
Thank you. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Now I feel better. What's up, y'all?
We are here to talk about Gremlins, the 1984 American comedy horror film directed by Joe Dante and written by Chris Columbus, starring Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Polly Holliday, and Francis Lee McCain, with Howie Mandel providing the voice of Gizmo, the main Mogwai character. It draws on legends of folkloric, mischievous creatures that cause malfunctions known as gremlins in the British Royal Air Force going back to World War II. The story follows a young man who receives a strange creature as a pet, which then spawns other creatures who transform into small, destructive, mischievous monsters that all wreak havoc on a whole town on Christmas Eve. The film was the center of a large merchandising campaign and ops for black comedy balanced against a Christmas time setting. Steven Spielberg was the film's executive producer, with the film being produced by Michael Finelli. Gremlins was theatrically released on June 8th, 1984 by Warner Brothers to critical and commercial success. However, it was heavily criticized for some of its more violent sequences. In response to this and to similar complaints about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Spielberg suggested that the Motion Picture Association of America alter its rating system, which it did within 2 months of this film's release, creating a new PG-13 rating. It was followed by a sequel, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, in 1990. Despite the initial mixed criticism, Gremlins has continued to receive critical praise over the years and is considered by many one of the best films of the 80s, and on a budget of $11 million, made a total of $213 million over its initial release and several re-releases since. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds a certified fresh approval rating of 86% based on 76 reviews, with an average rating of 7.4 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, quote, whether you choose to see it as a statement on consumer culture or simply a special effects-heavy popcorn flick, Gremlins is a minor classic. I'll start with you, Lady Cora. You've seen Gremlins again. It's one of the classics of cinema. It's one of the classics of the 80s. Give me your quick thoughts on the film before we get into all the spoiler talk.
This scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And when I watched it later in life, it still creeped me out some. And I think it's a good movie for people who never knew what life in the 80s was like, to get a feel for, how people were how life was like, minus the plot of it. I mean, it's a great 80s movie, and it's a scary movie that doesn't give me nightmares as an adult, but as a kid, it freaked me the fuck out. So, you know.
Because there were lots of Mogwai running around your neighborhood when you were a kid.
Well, there's a gremlin on the show right now. From Texas.
Who? Where? Where?
Speaking of that gremlin, let's go to you now, Tex. What do you give me some quick thoughts on Gremlins before we get into the spoiler talk?
Yeah, this is one I grew up with whenever I was a kid. Obviously, like you just spoke of, the merchandising of this film was to no end. I had the stuffed version of Gizmo. It was just like soft and it was just like something. But I had Stripe, and it was like it had like a voice thing to it. So I had both of the main ones as a kid. But yeah, no, this is a Christmas watch for me. This is one. Obviously, I do my October Scare-a-thon. I have a smaller version or smaller list that I watch in December for Christmas related type films. It's about 10 movies or so. But this is one because the plot of this takes place on Christmas Eve. This is a Christmas Eve movie for me. And yeah, it's a fun one to watch. It's like Cora said, if you didn't know what life was like in the 80s to the even really early 90s, I would say this is very reminiscent of what that time period felt like. So it's a good one.
Yeah, for me again, it's one of the classics of the 80s. I mean, it's for one, it's Steven Spielberg. Let's be honest. He's kind of the man when it comes to filmmaking. He's probably the best producer, maybe one of the best directors in like ever. Look at his body of work; it speaks for itself. We've talked about it before. But I mean, Joe Dante is one of the great directors of the 80s and 90s. He was a big part of why that decade was so fantastic and entertaining. The 80s and the 90s with his action sensibilities. He actually does show that you can put together. It was done in a very 80s way that I thought was kind of tacky and not very well done as I was watching the movie again yesterday. But there is still a lot of feeling in this. I mean, you do get emotionally attached to all the characters, even from Zach Galligan's character and Phoebe Cates' character all the way down to the Mogwai, to Gizmo. You kind of get attached to these guys. And I've been looking at what could have been for this movie, what they initially wanted it to be, how they wanted Gizmo's story arc to go, and stuff like that. And it could have gone way wrong if anything that I read would have actually come to fruition. But the fact that he looked at this and said, I know what we've got here with this Gizmo character. We're going to make him ultimately the center of the movie. We're going to make him the hero. And that was really what makes this movie fantastic, is that this little, 10-inch tall weird thing that looks like Baby Yoda with a lot more hair is going to carry this movie without really saying much either. So yeah, it's a very, very good movie. Fantastic. And I'm really eager to get into it. Let's talk a little bit about Joe Dante as a director. I could go down this guy's body of work, and Jesus Christ. I mean, it's everything from horror to spoof comedy. The guy's had his hand on so many things. I mean, I'm looking at his stuff right now. He's got things. I'll talk about his unrealized work in a minute, which that alone is fantastic. But I mean, to appeal to Tex, he did Piranha in 1978, The Howling in 1981, The Twilight Zone. Then he did Gremlins. Then he did Gremlins, the new batch. He was the director of that. But he's also done things for TV like Twilight Zone, Amazing Stories. He did several episodes. He did what was the one thing he did the horror thing. Why drawing a blank of the name? He did something called, let me try to find it real quick. Masters of Horror. That was it. He did a couple episodes of Masters of Horror in the early mid 2000s. He's Salem, the TV show. Then more recently he did Legends of Tomorrow, which I didn't think was a very good show overall, and some episodes of the new show MacGyver, which admittedly I haven't seen. But yeah, I mean, I'll go to you first, Tex. I mean, Joe Dante as a director. I mean, so he's been involved in so many great films through the 80s and the 90s. What do you think of some of his work?
Joe Dante is one of those guys in horror that he's never gotten the credit that he deserves. Obviously, and I mean, this is my opinion, but he made the greatest werewolf movie ever with The Howling. And I'm talking going back even to Universal days. The Howling is, I mean, we talked about it briefly whenever we reviewed American Werewolf in London, how that was more comedic. The Howling is the scarier side, and you still get those cool, transformations in. But one film that you didn't mention there is Tales of Halloween. This guy, Joe Dante, was attached to that film as well, and this was like a mid-2000s horror anthology, very low budget. It's on Tubi. You can watch it. But Tales of Halloween is one of my favorite, and it is one of the best non-Michael Myers Halloween films that you can go watch. There's a handful of stories. It's got Adrienne Barbeau and 10 other people that you'll recognize when you watch it. If you haven't seen Tales of Halloween, go out of your way to see it. It's a regular October watch for me. But besides that, I mean, he did Small Soldiers, the real life animated, toy thing with Tommy Lee Jones, and he also did The Burbs. I mean, The Burbs is another Tom Hanks classic. Like I said, the dude's done a lot of cool stuff. Very undeserving. I think his name should be bigger, but unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, it's his unrealized projects. I'll go to those in a second, but wow, there is some for sure home runs on here. Some big movies that he had a chance to direct, and for one reason or another didn't. I'll go to you next, Lady Cora. Joe Dante again. He's been around for a while. He's had his name attached to some fantastic movies. What do you think of him as a director?
I honestly don't. I don't remember him standing out. I mean, I see Christopher Columbus on it as a writer who I respect. So I'm sure they had, it sounds like they both have a nice resume. I didn't know he directed The Greatest Show Ever or, some of the movies I've liked. So I think he's one of those directors that, is good, but maybe isn't, super famous. So, I mean, I think he did a fine job on this, and I'm looking at his resume here, and I don't see anything that I hated. So I'd say he's pretty decent. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, anytime you can work with Christopher Columbus and put out a banger like this, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at some of his unrealized projects. For one, just the stuff that he's done. I mean, he did Piranha, which is kind of a classic horror movie. He did Rock and Roll High School back in the late 70s.
Rock and Roll High School is a good one, too.
The Howling, which is one I will probably get to here sooner rather than later. The much maligned Twilight Zone movie, he directed one of the segments of that film. Then Gremlins, of course. He did one of my favorite 80s movies, Explorers, with a very, very young Ethan Hawke. He was probably about 15 or so when this movie was made. He did one of the great 80s comedies, Interspace, with Martin Short and not Dennis Quaid. Randy Quaid, or Dennis Quaid. The Burbs, of course. He had Small Soldiers, which is kind of a different version of Gremlins, just with toys instead of little bitty alien weird things.
It's more of like a weaponized AI toy kind of thing. It's a fun watch. Small Soldiers is a darker film than you may realize that it is. It's legit. It's pretty cool.
And here, just in time to give us his thoughts on Joe Dante as a director, is my hetero life mate, Jeremy. What's up, brother?
It's alive.
Yeah. Alive is a word that might work for. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have that up at the moment. But I think you were talking about like Small Soldiers in this movie. It is similar, but like Tex said, it is kind of like an AI kind of like an AI taking over type thing. And honestly, I love Small Soldiers. Came out in that little sweet decade called the 90s, and it was a great movie. And as much as I want to hear Frank's dirty mouth admit it, he's not going to, but it's okay. That's one of those first times like in a movie where I was like, I actually was kind of rooting for the bad guy because I'm like, I thought the Commandos were the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. And I'm like, they're so much fun. Don't kill them. Fuck the Gorgonites. I don't really care.
The Gorgonites were pussies. I mean, they're like, oh, we just want peace. We don't want to be messed with. And just kill them all. I hate them.
The Commandos were like, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to burn everything to the ground. I'm like, they're kind of funny. I mean, honestly, I thought they were awesome.
Look, I just said Small Soldiers was a really fun movie. I thought it was pretty good. That it is a lot darker and a little bit grittier than Gremlins. I think it's a good watch. Maybe we'll get to that one eventually too.
Ooh.
But, Yeah, I thought that was a fun movie. Again, a little bit of kind of the same beats, obviously, little bitty things, but you're talking about toys instead of Baby Yodas with hair that turn into evil Sith Baby Yodas with hair. If you want to keep making the comparisons between Baby Yoda and the Mogwai and Gizmo, but yeah, I mean, let's talk now about the cast. And Jesus, I mean, Phoebe Cates, Zach Galligan, D2. I mean, they left this movie when this came out probably two of the hotter stars in Hollywood, especially Phoebe Cates, because she was fresh off of God damn it, Fast Times at Ridgemont High when this movie came out. I'll go to you first, Cora. What did you think of the cast of this, and who sticks out to you, except for maybe the two main leads?
I like them all except the guy who played the dad. I don't know if the way it was the character written or the actor and his portrayal of it. Obnoxious, annoying. Didn't like the dad character at all. I know he loved his kid and all, but just like that's somebody you don't want to get stuck in a corner with at a cocktail party to talk to. But I really liked the vibe between Billy and Kate. They casted it well because, well, they seemed like they could have been a real couple. It was cute. I don't know. I just think it was. I like the focus being on the kids, the teenagers. It felt relatable too. When I was young and as a teenager watching it. It is. Let's be honest. Some movies are geared more towards like a younger audience than an older audience, and I think this one was geared towards the teenagers, and I think they cast it well for that purpose.
Yeah, how about you, Jeremy? What did you think of the overall cast of the movie, and did you think the two leads worked, and who else kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, like Cora said, they had a pretty believable chemistry, and it worked. I know Judge Reinhold was in this movie too, but also if you saw Phoebe Cates come out of a fucking pool like that, I mean,
I'd be following her career around too.
You would be, yeah, you would be too. And there's also like a super young Corey Feldman in this movie too.
I was about to say that. Yeah. I forgot him.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's fun.
Because I think this was before Goonies.
84.
And Christopher Columbus had his hands on both.
This was a year or so. Yeah, about a year. I think this was the movie he did right before Goonies.
Right before. I think Goonies was 85.
Yeah, and Christopher Columbus wrote both. So I think that may be the link there. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, even though, I mean, he's a kid, but he's a believable kid. I'd be slingshotting fucking gremlins out my window too, So, yeah, I don't know. I think I could also agree with Cora. The dad's just annoying. I wouldn't want to. He'd be trying to sell me some shit. I'm just trying to vibe, and this dude's like, "Hey, so but like, have you seen this thing, this Swiss Army knife thing that I have for your bathroom?" And I'm like, "Dude, like, this is a Wendy's. What are you doing?" Yeah, I don't know. Wasn't the mom also the one who played like the grandmother in Back to the Future?
Maybe
when he went back in time, because like her face looked really familiar.
Well, she played Kevin Bacon's mom in Footloose. I know that.
Okay, I couldn't remember if she was the grandmother in 1955 when Marty went back in the past. I was like fairly certain, which is weird because I'm like, well, that's a year later. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a small part. I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at. Yeah, it's it like we said, like it works the best when like.
Oh yeah, she was Stella Baines in Back to the Future.
Was she?
Good look at that.
I remember the face. Yeah,
she was also Miss Riley in the first Scream movie in '96.
Oh shit! Okay, well there you go. Yeah, one of them faces.
Yeah, for me, you mentioned the chemistry between the two leads. One of the things I was looking at in the trivia was that Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates had been on so many auditions together over while they're trying to get their career started. They already kind of knew each other. So when he walked in and she was there, he just kind of sat down and like rested his head on her shoulder and looked up at her and said hi or something like that. And that was when Steven Spielberg was like, "Look at this. He's already in love. This is the chemistry right here. This is what I want." So that just
That's
maybe
awesome.
that one little cool move to kind of just be like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" So make a nonchalant kind of audition probably hit the role. Look, I'm a Phoebe Cates fan. I have the pop figure of her in the red bikini back there somewhere. I don't know if you can see it.
Of course.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite moments in cinema. The cast. Look, the important thing about casting is making sure it's good for the characters. So I mean, you could say, I've got a couple of names that I'll give you in a little bit of who could have been cast instead of Zach Galligan, but would it have been the same? I mean, they weren't big actors at the time. I don't think, at least not yet, up and coming maybe. But it's what's really important is making sure that whoever you pick to portray that character is somebody who's going to embody what you want that character to be. It's not always about the big name, i.e., the Batman movies that with Val Kilmer and George Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the big time Hollywood good looking leading man, but is that really who you want to play this character? Didn't work out so well in those instances. But you go get Michael Keaton, who was mostly a comedic actor, hadn't done anything really that big, before Batman came out in '89, and he just slays. I mean, he was exactly what Tim Burton had envisioned for the role, and that collaboration worked out great.
You mentioned Tim Burton. I read something somewhere he was tied to this. I don't remember at all what it was exactly, but like he almost did something in it, or almost was in it. I actually have that in my. Do I have it in here? Yes, I actually have that in my trivia for later. Sorry.
So we can talk about that.
Didn't mean
I thought I did. I couldn't remember or not. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people that were attached to this at one point. I mean, a lot of different things that could have been. But
cool.
But yeah, I mean, the cast is fantastic. Again, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, Phoebe Cates' career did very well through the 80s and 90s, and I know she she tailed off a little bit. It's fun seeing Polly Holiday. I mean, she's still out there kicking. I think she's somewhere in her late 80s now, but she was Flo on the old TV series Alice. For those of you who are as old as I am and remember shit like that, the whole Kiss My Grits and stuff like that. She's actually been in several movies, but yeah, again, just great chemistry, great performances by the two leads. As much as I love Phoebe Cates, I wasn't particularly fond of the character in this movie. I mean, it's now granted, I'm looking at this 1984 product with modern eyes, but it had been several years since I had actually sat down and watched this movie, for anything other than just kind of background noise. But yeah, the whole thing about, and now I have another reason to hate Christmas, and her explaining why. I was just like, did anybody actually try to climb down a fucking chimney? It's like, for those of you who don't know, chimneys are not really that big. There's very rare that you can find a chimney.
They start small and they get bigger as they go to the top, usually speaking.
So I mean, I'm not trying to smash any. If you're a kid watching, I'm not trying to smash your belief in Santa or anything. But I mean, he uses magic. He doesn't actually shimmy his fat ass down the tree. So it's like, when has there ever been a chimney that you can actually squeeze a regular sized human being down? Let alone who I'm assuming would have been a middle-aged man who's a bit portly like myself, shimmying his fat ass down the chimney with a bag full of toys.
Let's be honest here, though. Phoebe Cates' character in this film, she only really serves purpose for the story when the douchebag guy is hitting on her at the beginning, when she's waitressing at the bar, when she's attacked later on in the movie, and then when she realizes, oh, this bright light makes the gremlins run away. That's about all she does in this film.
Well, let's be honest. These 80s movies, Tex, they always had a cute girl in it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Well, and that's what. Right? No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's my point. Is Phoebe Cates' name? Yes. But a lot of other actresses could have done what she did, and it would have been no different.
A young Jodie Foster could have done this easy too, by the way.
Probably.
Well, there's a laundry list of names. I mean, Zach Galligan. He's got at least in the horror world. I mean, obviously Gremlins 1 and 2. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the Waxworth movies. He's in the first two of those. I think it's Hellraiser 3. He was in one of the first few Hellraisers. It's either 3 or 4, I can't remember. And he was also in the Hatchet films, which is a modern slasher franchise created by Adam Green. That's kind of a throwback to the 80s, glory days. But Zach Galligan, he's not a horror icon by any sense of the word, but he's been in a lot of franchises. He's one of those names you'll see at horror conventions. He always has a line because he's been in so many properties, and he's just one of those guys. Now, one person that I've never seen get enough credit, and I feel bad because I didn't even write his name down, is the neighbor that pulls up on the tractor at the beginning of the film, talking about what I did at the beginning of this. The whole don't buy that foreign car junk. Buy American. American cars don't have to do this. That guy in this movie was great.
That's Dick Miller. He's actually a good friend of Joe Dante. Joe Dante has cast him in almost all.
Yeah, his whole speech of I've had this Kentucky whatever tractor he's describing. I heard that whenever I watched it against this review, and I pictured 15 guys that I know in real life that say that exact same thing. Well, I bought this John Deere and it's blah 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 blah. It's so realistic that it makes me laugh. And it's he doesn't get a lot to do in this movie. He pops up there in the beginning and then is it going to be okay to drive home and later? That's really about all that he does. But that guy's so much fun to watch, and he's in this kind of bit part that he plays in this film. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, Dick Miller was in a lot of Roger Corman films. As a matter of fact, Corman was one of the. He was one of the guys that got Joe Dante into filmmaking. He actually studied under Corman.
Oh.
If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, just go look at the list of directors and famous people that Roger Corman has put on the fast track to success. That guy's been making movies since the 50s or something. The dude, he's arguably one of the most influential and important guys to this medium. So, yeah, I'm not surprised whatsoever. King of the B movies, as he says. So,
yeah, it says here
that exploitation.
It says here that Dante got his start in apprenticeship filmmaking in '74 when Corman offered him a job in the trailer cutting department of New World Pictures, where he edited for trailers like Cover Girl Models and Amarcord. I've never heard of either one of those. Other established directors such as, get these names right, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, and Peter Bogdanovich had already emerged from Corman's de facto film school. So you're walking the same path as Coppola and Scorsese? I mean, Hi, those are big names.
Jack Nicholson is another one that came out of his. What's the guy from that did Guardians of the Galaxy that's now doing DC? Crap, I can't remember.
James Gunn.
James Gunn. He's done Roger Corman stuff. There are so many people that have been attached to Roger Corman projects. Ron Howard and his brother Clint Howard have done Roger Corman stuff. I mean, there is a laundry list of people that have gone through his stuff. Yeah, Roger Corman was famous for, he would do the exploitation films like Humanoid Creatures from the Deep, where it's like basically like a knockoff of the Creatures from the Black Lagoon, but it was a cheaper version. But it was still just as good. He was synonymous for creating studios like New World Pictures, making low budget films, and then he would sell the catalog and he would just restart. That's what he's done his whole career. That's why he's the king of the B movie exploitation. So I'm a big Roger Corman guy.
I think most people are. Yeah. But yeah, again, the cast is fantastic. Let's move on now to the plot. I mean, Gremlins. It's a goofy plot, but I mean, it was really all about story and execution when your plot's kind of goofy and weak. I'll go to you now, Jeremy. What do you think about the plot of the film?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. With 3 simple rules to follow, and of course, the movie would be 5 minutes long if you didn't follow those rules. So, of course, it goes to shit real fast. I mean, I guess kind of to be fair, the first one's kind of an accident. Corey Feldman's clumsy ass knocks over a thing of like water, but I love when they kind of play the movie straight, and it's like, if you really saw that, you wouldn't just be like, I wonder what would happen if I keep doing this. you know, and you're not like freaked out by that at all. I know they're cute, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I grew up in the, you know, in the like 90s and early 2000s. Those things look like Furbies, and I would have punted that little fucker out the window. So like, I don't know. Again, the plot wouldn't happen if that didn't, you know, take off. But yeah, it, you know, kind of. Oh, there we go. We lost text again.
It actually hasn't happened for a few streams.
See, I show up
I'm
and then
here.
everything goes to shit.
I'm here.
Right, and I come back and here, you know.
I'm not even touching anything, and it all blacks out and
You
comes
blame
right back.
me.
I don't know what happened.
It's okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's a kind of, you know, then it just snowballs into a whole. It kind of reminded me of like Jumanji. It's like, you know, when the monkeys got loose. It's like now they're just gonna wreak havoc on the whole fucking town.
And you know, both had a kitchen scene where you're so mad they're destroying a fucking kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I would have saw some gremlins on a bike with a fucking gun and shit, like a police bike, I would have been like, yeah, that tracks. And the scariest part is like, yeah, they learn to use tools. Like one is the Stripe straight up picked up a fucking gun and was like trying to kill this kid. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's horrifying. Yeah, it works. Kind of a goofy plot, but I mean, you know, even if you did something like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, kind of the same deal. It's like you goofy, but you lean into it and you just go for it, and it works. So and it sticks around. Oh.
Tex, how about you? What do you think about the plot of the movie?
Oh, the plot's great. It's, you know, see, unlike Die Hard, which is not a Christmas movie, this
Thank you.
incorporates Christmas.
Eye-rolling.
Sorry, I had to do that after that Tuesday nonsense. I wasn't here to defend myself. I had to throw that in.
You actually were
no,
in the
this is-
chat. Just saying.
Well, you know, I couldn't voice it. But no, the plot
I wanna
works.
help
It's
you.
obviously Dad is delusional. Dad is, oh well, I've invented this new thing that's the size of a cinder block that's going to save you space when you're traveling, and it does everything from squirt toothpaste to shave your face because we're all going to use that thing. And you know, he's a delusional dope of a dad who has the best of intentions to buy his son a present. And I don't know if it's kind of odd for the son to be so old. Like you would think the son would be younger when he's going to buy him his present.
Right.
Whatever.
But he's too young to have a love interest then, so you lose the plot.
Right.
Makes
Right.
sense.
That's what I'm saying. But you know, then you get into the whole, like Jeremy just said, the whole rules thing. You know, don't feed him after midnight. Don't. Which, okay. Question about the rules here. There's time zones across the world. Which time zone does this affected by? Because
I was gonna
midnight
say
in
that.
one
Movie
place
magic.
is
Movie magic.
different completely somewhere else. Just saying.
Well, and
Huge
what is
plot hole.
what is after midnight? Because technically it is always after midnight at some point until it is literally midnight.
Right. I need to sit down with Spielberg and have a meeting and get these questions answered because there's some glaring plot holes.
Like, just don't think about
But
it.
no,
I guess.
it's a fun 80s movie. It's a fun 80s movie with a cute little monster, you know, right over here that they could market and sell a bunch of, and then the cool looking one over here, which I actually prefer. If I were going to have her going, I'd have one of those.
Just saying.
But oh yeah, dude, he got to flash the chick at the bar. Come on, you can't tell me you didn't love that scene. But no, you know, the plot works. It's a fun popcorn 80s movie. I didn't realize that this was released in the summertime. I could have sworn this was released at Christmas, but whatever. But no, the plot works for what it is. It's, you know, it's, as I've said on here before, it doesn't let plot get in the way of a good story. They give you just enough to get you from one scene to the next, and it's fun. You know what I mean? You don't have to think about it too hard.
Well, on the subject of the release, I think this movie was supposed to actually come out that Christmas, but the production company realized they didn't have anything that could go up against Ghostbusters, which opened that summer, or Indiana Jones, which opened that summer. So they were like, let's rush this into production real quick so we can get it out. So it actually opened in August here in the United States, but in the UK and one of the other big markets at the time, I think it was Turkey, they actually didn't open it until I think late November or December of that year. So it was technically a Christmas movie for the rest of the world. It was a late summer blockbuster for us. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of in typical 80s fashion. It's kind of like the plot doesn't really matter because it's not what we're going to concentrate on. What we're going to concentrate on is this really cute guy that you see down there in the corner of your screen in Gizmo. We're going to concentrate on some special effects, which, I mean, look, the one that really got me, and I was like, wow, this movie looks super dated when you see this scene, is as all the gremlins are like walking down the street, you can see the claymation stop motion animation. I was like, I remember being amazed by that when I was, 9, but now I look at it, I'm like, we've come a long way since then, haven't we? It's like,
a little bit.
There was a couple of special effect shots I kind of looked at and I was like, wow, I would really like to see what they could do with something more modern. I mean, if George Lucas could modernize the Star Wars franchise and kick up those effects into a better level, then I'm pretty sure that Spielberg...
Don't let them touch it. They ruin everything when they modernize. Don't let them touch them. No.
Modernize the effects. I mean, that's it. I mean, if you could at least clean up the frames a little bit so it looks a little smoother. But it was clearly some claymation or some stop motion stuff, and I was kind of like... It's been so long since my eyes have had to watch that it kind of like tripped me up a little bit. I was like,
yeah, but
I remember now what it was like to watch movies in the 80s.
But don't you think that it gives that rawness to it gives it the character that it does? Kind of like when you watch like Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, and there's like a skeleton coming out of nowhere, and you can, I mean, obviously we know how they do it now, and yes, it does date the property that it's in. But it gives it some character. If it was modern, I mean, think back to whenever George Lucas remastered the original trilogy, and you had these digital characters in Jabba's palace that singing one or whatever. It just didn't match everything. I don't know. I think it's better left to its own device.
I think the property makes a difference too, like what movie it is, because it's like there's this movie and then there's like the original Clash of the Titans from the 40s or 50s whenever that movie came out, like the whole big skeleton creature like moving. It's obviously claymation and stop motion stuff. That scene has a weird magic to it that I don't think modern or more modern special effects would have achieved. But it's like in this one shot, it's like we were seeing the animatronics and the puppet work from the close-up stuff, but it's like for that shot it wasn't nearly as smooth on the eye, so it's like that's the one that really stood out and kind of it messes with the pace of the viewing, if that makes any sense. It kind of messes with that a little bit. It doesn't take me out of the movie or anything, but it's kind of jarring. I understand you're talking about one or two Mogwai or Gremlins in a scene that can be handled by puppeteers, as opposed to hundreds of them walking towards the camera down the street. Not an easy thing to do with just puppets and animatronics and whatnot. So I get it, but still, it wasn't as easy on the eyes as it was when I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, I was amazed by that vision. This time I was kind of like, wow, special effects has changed in Hollywood, and I'm noticing it right now. But but for the plot, I mean, kind of generic, but that wasn't really. Again, it's really all in the execution, and I do see a lot of things in this now where I'm kind of like, I thought it was funny as I was watching this last night that Corey Feldman spills water on him, the whole thing happens, and they pretty much shrug it off like, oh, that's kind of crazy. And then they kind of go out about their normal lives. I almost instantly would have called like the ASPCA or Animal Control and been like, hey, this is some weird shit. Somebody come get this. And then he takes one to his junior high school science teacher, who he's apparently still buddies with. I don't know. I mean, junior high was fun for me, but I'm not still friends with any of my teachers from junior high. But and then he's like, hey, watch this whole thing that tripped me out last time. More water. And then another one. And I'm like, why? You have to know that this is a weird thing. Why didn't you just say, hey, this is what happened? What do you think? But I don't know. There were some plot things that I was kind of like, it's not a plot point as much as it is just kind of silly. And I know that they didn't have to explain that kind of thing in the movie. They didn't. That happened a lot in the 80s. They just kind of had stupid things happen, and then you never really explain why. Just that they did happen, and they're part of the movie, and you're expected to kind of, the suspension of disbelief. But yeah, I was kind of like, well, I'll accept this for the purpose of the movie, but it is kind of silly.
One thing I will say, Joe Dante or Steven Spielberg owes Ridley Scott an apology. Because the cocoons that the facehuggers come out of in Alien,
oh boy,
they straight up rip those off for the cocoons whenever the Mogwai turn into the evil version. Once you go look with like the neon green and everything coming out of it, that's straight up out of an Alien film. If you can't recognize that, you're blind. Like that's just straight up that looked cool in the movie. We're going to do a version of it. So, they obviously took some inspiration from that film. So shout out Ridley Scott, I guess.
It does look pretty cool. It does look a lot like Alien. I actually noticed that when I was watching
wow.
yesterday. I was just like, this does look a lot like the Alien eggs, but I'm gonna go with it because it's a little different. But
it looks like.
Let me start a little bit of a debate here, and I'll go to you first, Lady Cora.
Yeah.
Do you consider Gremlins a Christmas movie?
100%, as I do Die Hard.
Oh, well, you're half right.
You
started out good. Started out.
You brought up Die Hard. I wasn't gonna. You brought it up, buddy.
She's made her point clear, Tex. Let me ask you now: do you consider Gremlins a Christmas movie?
100%. The Mogwai was bought as a Christmas present. Christmas is laundered through the entire thing. It is integral to what makes this film. What difference, if you want to that answer, Die Hard can take place any time of the year. That could be a 4th of July get together, a New Year's, Arbor Day, throw whatever holiday you want in there. Doesn't really matter. You just need the office party in the building. Just happens to be at Christmas, just like Lethal Weapon. This is a Christmas film. Happens on Christmas Eve. The Christmas present. Everything else. This is a Christmas film 1,000,000%.
I don't know. Jeremy, what do you think? Do you think that Gremlins is a Christmas movie?
I would say that it is a Christmas movie because my criteria for it too is along the lines of something Tex just said. It's part of the plot. It's integral to the plot. So,
Right.
Like he said, this was. I mean, yes, it took place during Christmas Eve, Christmas, and it started off with the dad trying to buy a gift for his son for Christmas. So that's kind of your whole thing, and that's a lot of the set pieces, the backdrop. The town is covered in snow. I don't know where Kingston Falls is, but I'm like, you might be in the Midwest because I would not have cleared off that whole car either. I would have just tried to start it and it didn't start, and I would have been like, oh, fuck it. We walking today, I guess. So I kind of felt it. I'm like, this might be a Midwestern town. And that kind of tracks. There will be some fucking good old boy fucking next door who talks about his American tractor all day. So it's probably a Midwest town. But yeah, that's why like Die Hard is not a fucking Christmas movie, and I will fight you to the fucking end that it's not.
Thank you. Smart man.
Because they play the Harry Potter movies constantly during Christmas. But why?
Harry Potter, it's kind of like a Christmas movie.
It is not a fucking Christmas movie.
It's
there is one
scene over a whole year.
Part of what defines a Christmas movie for me is a movie I want to watch at Christmas. Just saying.
So then Halloween is a Christmas movie because I watch it in December.
Right.
For you, okay.
I watched Texas Chainsaw the other day. I mean, yeah, I guess that's a Christmas movie.
There you go.
That's probably what Texas looks like in December. I don't fucking know. Like,
it's not far off.
I was like,
some years it's been like 85 on Christmas. It's not far.
Any social progression,
right?
So you got to give.
That's why we're better because we're 150 years behind you, bunch of heathens. So, yeah, we're good.
Hey, come up here for a winter. I'd love to see you fucking survive that for a minute.
Nope.
Exactly.
Nope.
You know what? I lived in rural South Dakota for 3 years.
Yes.
I earned my badge. Tex, it's your turn.
I'll say this: to kind of get back on point here, when it comes to what's not, what is, yes, technically, any movie can be anything you want it to be. If you watch Friday the 13th on Saturday the 14th, it's a Saturday the 14th movie. That's a moot point. That doesn't matter here. But if the plot is centered around a holiday, much like the Thanksgiving film that literally just came out from Eli Roth, which everybody should go see.
Oh hell!
Cora, doctor.
Seriously,
I
don't know.
Oh, he's back.
I don't know why this is happening, but well, like I said, the Thanksgiving film that just came out.
We're having hot takes here. That's why.
It's because I talked about China at the beginning of this. They're trying to silence me. I'm being canceled. Is what it is. It's fine. But like I said, Thanksgiving is a Thanksgiving movie because it's a plot-centered point. In Gremlins, you start off with the opening of the presents. Everything else is there. This is a Christmas film by every sense of the word. Even the news report at the end of the movie where they're watching the television, talking about how this is the worst Christmas, blah, 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 ever, it's a Christmas movie. You can't argue it. There's no way around it. It's just one of those things.
I'm sure somebody could argue it. They're probably from Texas.
Well, you could argue it, but you'd be wrong because I already know I'm right. So it doesn't really matter. It's one of those things.
Like Die Hard's an action movie, and it happens.
Yes, I agree.
It has nothing to do.
I like Die Hard.
Hallmark movies, Christmas movies.
If that's what the
I don't
plot is,
consider those movies because I don't watch them.
Oh,
Who watches that garbage?
People do.
Uh,
I buy the
maybe this is
subscription
one of the
every
things-
my mom
year
does, but
for Hallmark for my best friend.
Maybe this is one of the things that for the charity stream on New Year's. I think we'll break this question out and have a debate.
Oh, we can go hours on this. We can go hours. I'm prepared.
I'm not going to go hours, but I mean, I'll set some time aside. What makes a movie a Christmas movie? We'll try to establish some guidelines because I feel like that it's. And I think we talked about this on Derailed once or twice. There's not really a set list of criteria that a movie can meet to be a Christmas
of course
movie.
not.
So maybe we'll have to. Maybe we'll have to figure that out. But to me, is it a Christmas movie? Again, it's the question is not is any movie a Christmas movie. The question is what makes the Christmas movie. I personally think that any movie that you generally religiously watch around Christmas, you can consider a Christmas movie for you. But I don't know if anybody else would necessarily consider a movie a Christmas movie. It's like, I mean, have you ever stopped to think about how dark A Wonderful Life, about how dark that movie really is? The guy spends most of the movie considering killing himself. That's a pretty dark plot. So I mean, but it happens at Christmas. All this stuff. So, and that's largely considered a Christmas movie. But I mean, maybe that's a broader debate that we'll have for the charity stream on New Year's. I mean, do I consider it a Christmas movie? Yeah. I mean, Christmas is not really a big part of the plot, which is kind of the one thing that kind of takes it down a bit for me. Also, here in the States, again, they released it in August, not exactly prime Christmas time. We're still in August. We're still 3 weeks away from everybody putting Christmas shit in stores, so it's not quite Christmas time yet. It's usually
about that.
It's usually September, so they start doling out some of the Christmas stuff to get ahead of the game anymore. Anyway, maybe in the '80s they were probably still Christmas for around Thanksgiving, but nowadays they start Christmas stuff in July anymore. But
they
I don't know that
Christmas shit at Costco in July. Yeah.
I walked into a dollar store to get some random stuff for my house in July, and they were lining up Christmas displays. They weren't setting them up; they just got them delivered.
Christmas
and I was like,
sells,
"Why?
what can
You can't get this shit in November to set it out." I'm like, "You have to have it back there so you can be the first ones to get it out." It was just stupid.
No, I went to Target in September, and they had a really pathetically piddled out Halloween section, and then I kid you not, 2 rows over. The next 2 rows was just lined with Christmas shit. And I'm like, can you wait your fucking turn? Holy goddamn, stock these shelves.
I don't give a fuck about Halloween. I don't really care. But I respect those who love Halloween, and their season is ignored by many. So
I kind of forget it because I'm in it. I forget that we're just kind of the I mean, I don't try to, because I sound like a prick when I say it, but I'm I'm an actor. But I'm kind of the schlocky of actors. I'm a haunt actor, really, because when you think about it, I'm sure. But I forget because I'm in this and I love it. And I love doing it. And it's a nice little bonus paycheck at the end of the year. But I kind of forget, oh, yeah, there are people who, are not as into it as me. But they can also go screw themselves when they're wrong. But
I don't complain about Halloween season, even though I don't participate in it. Let people do what they fucking want,
Right.
I can end this argument very easily right here. Which holiday has a store dedicated to it that only comes out in the particular season that takes over other locations? Is that Spirit Christmas? Oh, wait, no. That's Spirit Halloween. Okay.
But there are
Christmas might take over every other store. But Halloween.
Christmas stores everywhere, though.
Right, but there's no national chains taking over empty Best Buys and Circuit Cities and putting a banner out in front of it. But they do that at Halloween, so we're better.
You can't tell me that wouldn't make money. I'm really surprised that Spirit Halloween doesn't have a year-round brick-and-mortar store somewhere.
Seriously.
I mean, it's not about having
I would please.
I would go there pretty regularly.
I would never have any money. I'd never have any. Well, I don't have any money now, but it's one of those things. So.
Well, I realized I was like, oh yeah, Halloween's great, but I was like, you know what the most dangerous day of the year is? November 1st. When I go there, like everything is fucking half
Yes.
off, and I was like,
Oh my
shit.
God, dude.
I've
Well, it was so
never
much
been in
money.
a spirit store, so you know.
Yeah.
Oh, they're amazing.
Oh, we
They're
went to
incredible.
the store, and like the entire store was half
No,
off or some
I went
shit.
into one time.
Jeremy walks there with just a handful of money, walks in and goes, I want it all! Move
I
it to
put
my
2 big
car.
bags of fucking money on the counter like a
Jeremy,
fucking
that's me
cartoon
to
character.
use bookstore. That's me. I have to leave
Yeah.
my wallet in the car and take like
Mhm.
20. And when I go to use bookstores, I'm like,
That's
no,
fair.
That's it. Mm-mm.
There's 2 stores that I can't go in by myself. Any kind of outdoor store with guns and camouflage, or a Halloween store.
Warehouse.
I am not to be trusted with my wallet because I won't have one when I get done in there. I will try to sell it to make some more money to buy more crap I don't need.
See, I joked with a guy. I went to Comic-Con this past weekend, and I saw something that I really wanted, and you guys have seen it already in the chat, but I was
It
like,
looks cool. I like it.
yeah, I was like, you know what? This is Christmas and my birthday for me for this year, and I was like, I mean, a joke. Like she had to go get a picture taken. She had like a scheduled picture or whatever. And I kept thinking about it, and I came back, and I told the guy I was joking. I was like, see, I came back without my fiance, and I came back with my money. You know, I was like, yeah, now that I'm left to my own devices. But no, I already, yeah. She was like, I don't care. Go ahead. So.
Yeah, that's the thing is like your woman would just as easily spend an entire paycheck in a place like Spirit
Oh,
Halloween.
no. She was also like, no, go ahead. She was like, do it. What?
Hence why you two are a perfect couple.
Yeah, I know.
You support
She
each
wasn't
other's
even.
passions.
Yeah, she wasn't even mad. She was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do that. So I was looking around for a booth that we were trying to find, but I was like, you know what? I'll probably go back over there and I'll find you later. So. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this: there has been a long time rumor of a third movie coming out. So let me read you a little something real quick. In January of 2013, Vulture reported that Warner Brothers was negotiating with Amblin Entertainment to reboot the Gremlins franchise. Seth Grahame-Smith was tapped to produce alongside David Katzenberg. In January of 2015, Grahame-Smith stated the project had been put on hold. In November of 2015, Zach Galligan confirmed that the third film would be a sequel, but not a reboot. Forward to December of 2016, in an interview with Bleeding Cool, Galligan again spoke about the third film, saying that Warner Brothers definitely wants it. Chris Columbus wants to do it because he'd like to undo the Gremlins 2 thing. He wasn't thrilled with it. I actually think it was a pretty entertaining movie. And Spielberg wants to. He claimed Gremlins 3 is being written by Carl Ellsworth. I don't know who that is off the top of my head or what he's done. In an interview with Slash Film in 2017, a script was written by Chris Columbus. His script explored the idea that had been on fans' minds for a long time. If all the Gremlins come from getting Gizmo wet and feeding his Mogwai offspring after midnight, should Gizmo be eliminated? He described the script as being twisted and dark. And then, of course, it goes on to list other things that the characters have been in, like Lego Dimensions. Both Gizmo and Stripe made an appearance. The Lego Batman movie, the Gremlins were featured. Let's see. They have come out with the animated series, Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai, based on the property for its streaming service, Max. That's actually on Max right now. You can watch. Mountain Dew's done some stuff with it. A trio of Gremlins, including Stripe, appear in Space Jam: A New Legacy, which I still refuse to watch. And they're both Gizmo and Stripe are playable characters in the 2022 fighting game Multiverses, which I have not played. But I don't know. I'll go to you first, Jay. Jay, what do you think of the concept of a third film, and should it happen?
Also, because I'm a fucking nerd, in the movie Ready Player One in 2018, the box that the Orb of Osavox is in is the same box that Gizmo was in this movie.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
yeah. It's a really weird, like a quick, you don't notice it, but I'm like the box that he pulls out and opens up, and it's that orb, which is actually like a little orb with a D20 in it. I'm like, that's the same box that Gizmo was in from this movie. I was like, that's just like little shit like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was like, I noticed that, but I was like, wait a minute, that looks familiar. It's that little carry handle on top is like unmistakable. I'm like, oh wait a minute, that's the yeah. There it is.
Small world.
Yeah. See, this is that weird, when you say, is it a third movie or is it a reboot or is it, how far out?
It's a prequel. It's a prequel. It's a sequel.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Frank said, I'm like, if we redid this, And I mean, hell, since all we've been doing for the last like 10 years is just jerking off the 80s, like you could still set it in the 80s and put fucking Finn Wolfhard in there, because why the fuck not? Because he's in every goddamn thing that's ever fucking to do with the 80s, and it's getting on my fucking nerves. But anyway, you could do it and do it with you know, some better effects, and it'd probably look pretty sweet. As far as like a third movie, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Are we committing to a third in this timeline, or are we going to just like, you know, reboot it? Which I'd be a little more okay with, like if we did a reboot. You know, just like you said, kind of polish it up and give it some modern effects. You could really make some wicked looking Gremlins. I think that's where I'd be okay with.
Oh, no, Cora, what do you think? What do you think of the concept of a third movie, and should it be done?
Well, if they do it, they should,
Sorry.
you know, maybe take some more time and do it right if they're going to do it. That's what I would say.
Well, they've been working on it
There's always
essentially
a
now
like
for
you
7 years.
So how much time do you need?
That these movies are, you know, sequels and prequels are money machines for people who are passionate about something and becomes a franchise. So, I mean, there's fans of it. I would maybe watch it, but I don't know. I think it just depends on how much interest there is.
Well, it's like, hey, we're gonna make the trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6, and we're gonna make it come out in 2025.
Wow.
You've been working on this for how fucking long? You can't. Okay. I'm not mad about it.
Jeremy's about to rant. I can feel it. The force is strong in him right now.
You can borrow
He's
my
about to
squirrel
go off.
moment for the episode if you want. I haven't used it yet.
the gamer in him is getting a little frustrated. But
Well, because if they do the same shit they did when 5 came out, I'm going to go down and I'm going to go down there and punch somebody in the face, because like I don't like, you're like, oh, we're going to release it, but well, we're not going to release the online. When are you going to do that? I don't know. Like a year later. Well, we'll give you heists and all kinds of cool shit. Oh, okay. All right, where are the fucking heists? Well, we're gonna do that like a year after that. I'm like, and
Wow.
the thing that really pissed me off is they gaslit the fuck out of you in the trailer for the heist. They immediately have a character say to your character, "Well, I know you've been complaining, but you weren't ready." I'm like, shut the fuck up, you. Okay. You guys promised that you weren't ready. You fucked up. Get out of my face.
Tex, what do you think of the concept of a third movie, and what would you make it look like?
Blood and guts.
I'm so nervous of the legacy sequels. You know, some of them are better than others. I mean, hell, we just reviewed Top Gun Maverick, which is a legacy sequel that's awesome, that did it right, that took the time, they put in the work, they put in the effort. Then you got Exorcist Believer. You know, I mean, so you can go one of two directions with it. You need somebody who's super duper passionate about the Gremlins franchise. That's not me. Like I said, I only revisit this at December because it's a Christmas movie and it reminds me of my childhood when I had the toys whenever I was a kid. It's the only reason I go back to it. I don't own any other merchandise. I don't even think I own Gremlins on a physical media. So if I were going to do one, they're probably going to follow the trend of, you know, tie back to the original, like they've done every other franchise. It's only a matter of time. I mean, they've done so many. They'll get to Gremlins eventually. The money's there. There's a built-in fan base because nothing new gets made anymore, unfortunately. So I think it's inevitable, but will it be good or not? I don't think odds are in its favor. I mean, now the storyline that you said about basically the hunt down for Gizmo kind of sounds very E.T.-ish to me. And I got a feeling that's probably a way they would go about it, of hunting down this little creature. But, you know, I mean, do you set it in modern times? Do you do like Jeremy said and go back and set it in the 80s? And, oh, this was happening across town while all those, you know, Gremlins were getting blown up in the movie theater. You could do something like that, but I don't know. If it gets made, it probably will suck like most legacy sequels do, because Creativity is, as South Park made fun of, make her lame and gay. That's creativity.
I was going to say, it's
So,
Kathleen Kennedy, and thank you, South Park.
that's what I'm saying. Think about who we're dealing with. Oh, she must be either a different race, different gender, preferably gay, and has to be lame. That's the criteria for creative now.
God forbid something represents a normal life, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, you're right. But I'm
We're
also
going
like,
to.
it's a little, yeah, but it's obvious. Like,
The obvious pandering, I get it. Look, for me, I gotta be honest. I think there's more. I think you would have more storytelling opportunities with a sequel than you would a remake. But I don't want the sequel to be set like in the 1980s or in the early 90s, shortly after the last film, Gremlins 2: The New Batch. I want it set in the modern world. So I want to see a 50 or 60 something Zach Galligan married to a 50 or 60 something Phoebe Cates, and maybe they lost track of Gizmo or they stashed him away somewhere with maybe the little grandkids.
Maybe they sent him to college.
Maybe they did, or maybe they've got him.
Gizmo goes to college. There's the sequel. I want that movie. Gizmo goes to college. I want that.
Having parties and trying to make sure he doesn't drink at can't get wet after midnight. Like him living in a frat house trying to not create gremlins.
That's the movie right there.
It could be, but that's where the boys come from on Amazon. They got some blood from Gizmo, and now they're all superpowered. That's where the compound.
Oh,
but I would rather see a trilogy complete the Billy storyline, the Billy Peltzer storyline, and kind of and what would be really cool is since it's a Spielberg produced property, at the end of the movie, someone comes back to take Gizmo home, and when the door to the spaceship opens up, E.T. walks out, and it's just like, okay, time for us to go back. That would be pretty dope.
Well, hey, since we're opening this Spielberg verse, I just made up that word. Maybe since Gizmo's the problem, right? He created all this. Technically, we can just feed him to Jaws. Jaws will eat him. We don't have to worry about it. We're done. That's how we fix it right there. So,
but we have to throw him in the ocean and see what happens with Gizmo in water.
That's the sequel bait, because we see Jaws, Bruce the shark comes up, roar. We see Gizmo flying in the air. We see Gizmo like flying up, and then Jaws, as he clamps down, we cut to black. And that's our sequel bait for another movie that you have to
Richard Dreyfuss is still alive. I just saw him at Comic-Con this past weekend. Get him in there. Get him in there, damn it. Takes him to Devil's Tower, and there's the fucking encounters, damn it.
Or maybe they are waterless at the new Jurassic Park facility, and that's where we can hold them too. Just saying. Just saying. You know what I mean?
And to satisfy Jeremy's need to see Finn Wolfhard, we can make Finn Wolfhard Phoebe Cates' son.
Oh, yeah.
He can play the son.
Yeah,
so that would satisfy Jeremy and his need to see Finn Wolfhard in anything related to anything 80s. But let's move on to let's move on to a little bit of trivia now. Believe it or not, there's a lot of horror connections to this. Did you know, not a horror connection on this one, but there are several I could talk about. The set for Kingston Falls is the same one used for Back to the Future in 1985. Both movies were filmed on the same Universal Studios backlot.
I was looking at that. I'm like, why does this look like the same place Marty McFly lived? I was like, wait a minute.
Actually, the movie theater that you see early in the movie where it's got they're walking through, it's got the marquee and all that, that's the same movie theater that Marty is driving towards, that he ends up crashing into when he comes back from the past. But that's the one that he's speeding off towards when he goes back in time. That's the same movie theater. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I didn't realize it was the same set. As soon as they said that, though, I kind of looked at it. I kind of looked at a couple of screen grabs. I was like, oh, okay, I'm seeing it now. That makes perfect sense.
That's great.
But let's see. An earlier attempt to have monkeys play the Gremlins was abandoned because the test monkey panicked when they tried to make him wear a gremlin head. I don't know how you would have made that work. Look, props for them trying to get real animals to do it. I mean, it's worth a try. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm gonna know it's a monkey and not a mogwai. So maybe the animatronics was the best way to go. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's see.
Now, one thing. Well, before you move on quickly, if they make another sequel, I guarantee you they're not hanging a dog from Christmas lights on the front porch because the animal weirdos would lose their freaking minds because a hair on the dog's head was hurt. We got to flip out and rage on Twitter, X, whatever. There's no way that shot gets made. That shot right there would cost $20 million with CGI dog and fake snow effects. There's no way they're doing that shot in the third one or whatever.
The dog looks pretty secure. I mean, he's supported under his front leg.
You really think? But you really think that's going to matter to them? They're going to flip out. Oh, a dog's in harm. We got to flip out, lose our freaking minds. That's not going to happen. There's no way that they recreate that shot if they redo the film. Ain't going to happen.
They should. They really should. Let's see. Zach Galligan recounted in an interview that when the movie was made, there was no CGI, so all of the Gremlins were animatronics, each costing between $30,000 and $40,000 a piece.
I was about to say.
Wow!
When everyone left the lot for the day,
money well spent.
Security would have everyone open the trunks of their cars and their bags to make sure they weren't stealing them.
Wow.
I mean, that makes sense.
Well, just look at the facial expressions alone that Gizmo makes in this film are incredible. Like the puppeteers and however they did that. This is some of the best puppeteering I've ever seen on screen. I don't know if Jim Henson's Creature Shop made these or not, but Gizmo and the way that like whenever he's shocked or something, like those eyebrows go up and they are so expressive for a puppet. It is incredible to see. So
yeah, I was gonna say the monkeys is one thing, but I'm like, you can control the animatronic a lot better, and like I was gonna say that like you can get better facial expressions that you want from these little puppets than you could like a monkey wearing a Mogwai.
You don't have to feed them and don't have to worry about
getting them wet.
PETA people and blah
yeah,
blah.
True. That was the 80s. No one really cares.
You know, if they made this movie nowadays with animatronics, there would be some idiots putting a petition together on change.org to free the Gremlins that were used in filming. So
is it like that?
In the wild?
Is it like that picture of Steven Spielberg when he's kneeling down by the animatronic of the Triceratops, and it looks like it'd be some big game hunter photo, like he just killed this thing, and there are people that are like legitimately mad that he did this. I'm like, guys, you know he didn't actually kill a Triceratops, right?
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Well, the internet does not fuel the informed folks, unfortunately. But
it does some people.
At least one of Phoebe Cates' screams in the scene at Dory's Tavern is genuine, because an enormous cockroach crawled out in front of her during one take.
Oh shit! Well,
freaked me the fuck out.
That's fair.
But one of the reasons why this movie had trouble financially, even though it was actually, I think, the 4th or 5th highest grossing movie of the year, but one of the reasons that it had trouble financially was because it was released against another relatively big movie of the year. It was released the same day as Ghostbusters.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Yikes!
Bold strategy, Cotton. That one didn't.
I don't think they had as much thinking back then about that kind of thing.
Well,
like they just picked a release date and they did it. I mean, I may be younger, but I don't believe they would change release dates for profitability in marketing like they do now. Like a release date was a release date. I don't think they did that kind of shit, did they?
Well, I was gonna say I think the only thing about
Ghostbusters always been something on people's minds in the movie industry.
Oh, okay.
I think the only thing about Ghostbusters is I'm like, I mean, we look at it now, we're like, oh yeah, it's Ghostbusters, but I'm like, I don't think quite at the time they thought it was gonna be as big as it became. So maybe it kind of works. That's like, yeah, we're gonna have these two movies come out the same day. But I mean, again, both still have still test of time and they're still relevant. But yeah, that would kind of suck if you told me now, like Gremlins and Ghostbusters came out the same day. I'd be like, oh, Jesus, that was probably a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then, blockbusters did not come out every other weekend like they seem to do now. It's like, I mean, especially since Marvel's come into the game with the MCU, it's like, they were releasing I think when they were doing well, they were releasing 2, maybe 3 Marvel movies a year. And that was along with whatever Scorsese was putting out, with whatever Cameron may have been putting out, whatever DC was puther other big blockbuster or big Oscar bait film was. Whereas back then we were lucky to get 3 or 4 big blockbusters a year back in the early mid '80s. I mean, it was a rarity to see a movie. Like I think it really got started off when the first Batman came out in '89. Like that was when people were like, "Oh, wait a minute! Blockbusters make a shit ton of money. We should all try to make blockbusters instead of just making movies that are good. We should really go for this. We really want to go for the home run swing." So it was once you got into the late '80s into the '90s that people tried running for the big movies that made a bunch of money because they make a bunch of money. Instead of just making the art, they wanted to make art that made a lot of money. So it was kind of a rarity to see 5 or 6 huge movies come out in one year in the '80s, whereas, like I said, from the '90s on, it's just been like every other weekend, and especially since the 2000s hit. I mean, it's been like one after another. Every other weekend's got to be one of these big movies that's going to draw $100-something million in this opening weekend, or else they consider it a failure. So yeah, it was kind of, and like I said before, I was reading earlier, and they said they wanted to have something that could compete in the summer movie season with Ghostbusters and with Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, because they were like, we want this movie to come out now, so let's rush this, let's get it out there. I wonder what the movie would have looked like if they just said, let's just go ahead and wait, let's take an extra couple of months to put this movie together, do some extra shooting, some touch up on the script, touch up on some special effects. The kind of movie we could have gotten if they had just released it in November or December as a Christmas scary comedy action horror thing instead of rushing it out to try and take advantage of the summer movie season. I wonder what the movie would have looked like if they just stuck to their guns and said, we're going to release this in the first week of December and try to let it run through the holidays and see how it goes. But, what could have been, I guess.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah, Chris Columbus, his script went through a few drafts before the shooting script was finalized. His original version had the Gremlins killing the dog and cutting off the mom's head and tossing it down the stairs.
Nice.
That would have been cool.
These elements were never shot. Director Joe Dante and Warner Brothers wanted the movie to be more family oriented.
Oh, thank God.
That would have gone straight.
Hey, I'll say this.
At that point, don't give me any jokes at all in this movie.
That
Just
would be me hashtagging down my Gremlins movie.
Out of all the cool shots in this movie, from driving the plow into the house to the movie theater full of gremlins exploding, my favorite scene in this movie is when the mom goes straight up last house on the left on those gremlins. She's microwaving them to death, stabbing them like she's Michael Myers. She even does her best Captain America impression with the little tray shield thing where she's, blocking, objects being thrown at her. That sequence in the film, and like in the middle, like realistically, that scene is where like the violence picks up in this film. But that scene in the kitchen where the mom is stabbing everyone, that's my favorite scene. I love it. I would have, but hey, if you can give me a decapitation by a creature to human, I am always in favor of that. Kill the woman. I don't care. Do it bloody.
Human.
She actually lops their heads off. In that kitchen scene, she actually lops one of their heads off. I think they. Yeah. I think I have this in here, but they actually had meant for that to be a little bit more visual, but in editing they decided to not put it out because they thought it'd be a little too much again. But you can actually see in that scene, as she makes that knife swipe, you see his head flop off. There's like a real quick, like millisecond scene where you see his head land on a counter far away, and then it cuts back, and you don't see the aftermath of the headless body there or anything, but you see her, continuing to fight whatever gremlins in the kitchen. But yeah, she just straight out lops one of their fucking heads off right there.
Oh yeah, no, she's stabbing. I mean, she's stabbing, she's poking, she's slicing. Like I said, she's doing her best Jason Voorhees impression with that blade on these little monsters. And like I said, I'm here for it. Let's amp this up to Evil Dead 2 levels of gore here, and since we're going 80s style, let's just not hold back.
Horror film. It was great as it was.
But does it though? I think maybe. I don't know.
I like what we got, but a straight up horror
version
like
that's done in horror. Okay, there's
never
going to be.
Wait till I get to make my movies. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to prison for how hardcore.
No.
Oh. You wait for the text cut of Downton Abbey. There's going to be blood everywhere.
Mad Men, Justified, and Downton Abbey. Don't touch those. No. Mm-mm.
You know.
But let's see.
It'll be
After
fun.
watching it, we talked about a potential director earlier. After watching Tim Burton's earlier short films, executive producer Steven Spielberg considered him to direct this movie, but he decided against it. However, because at the time Burton had never directed a full feature-length movie, he would eventually, of course, next year go on to direct one of my favorite movies that we talked about a couple of months ago with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But yeah, I mean, what could have been? You know what though? This would have been right up Tim Burton's alley.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I kind of shit on Tim Burton a lot, that his movies have been hit or miss. They've either been really, really good or just straight out trash, in my opinion. There hasn't been a lot of in between. But this is the kind of movie that I think would have fit his sensibilities as a director and as a creator very, very well.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
If Tim Burton had done it, it would have been more gothic-y in feel, which I think could have worked. But, he was pretty. I mean, Tim Burton. I mean, if you were a goth kid from the '90s on, you were all about Tim Burton. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. Yeah, see, there's one of them next to me. Dang it! He's over there.
Christmas is the greatest thing that's ever happened to humanity. God damn it!
How much Jack Skellington merchandise do you own? And anything less than all of it is not a correct answer, sir.
Well, excuse me. I like Batman too, I grew up on Keaton. That's another thing. Batman Returns, a Christmas movie. That's another one. They were trying to consider.
I don't think so.
We'll have that discussion on New Year's.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that.
That show might drive me to drink, and I've been sober for almost 2. I better buy a bottle.
Well, hey, here. Cheers. Friends don't drink alone. So we're all good.
My bottle's over there, so.
Delicious.
Let's see. Zach Galligan, much to what you were saying, Jeremy, earlier on, Zach Galligan was the first to point out that the don't feed after midnight rule is silly because it's always after midnight somewhere. To which director Joe Dante said, well, we make fun of that stuff in Gremlins 2 anyway.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
They actually made Gremlins 2. Joe Dante said this. They actually made Gremlins 2 almost exclusively to make fun of this movie.
That's fair.
So, obviously, I know y'all can't answer this question, but if you can't get gremlins wet or they multiply, do they not sweat? I mean, sweat glands, they must be like a dog where they don't sweat, right? Of course, I'm asking the biological structure of a fictional character, but I don't know. These are the questions that go to my head when I watch a movie. Like I have my squirrel moments, as we so refer to them on this channel, but my brain just it goes all over the place.
Wait a minute. Wait.
I don't know.
In that scene when they were walking down the main street, right, where there's like the whole slew of them, weren't they walking through snow? Isn't snow water?
Oh my God, you're right.
Wait a minute, yeah.
The more we talk about this, the more plot holes we find.
We would melt. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Hey,
you're right.
If that's the Midwest, it gets humid as shit. So it's like you're swimming in fucking it's gonna be bad.
Right. There's moisture in the air. You know what I'm saying?
But they just said don't go outside because the snow will kill them. I guess maybe that's why. But I was like, wait a minute, they were walking through the snow.
In Gremlins 3.
Yeah.
Huh. It's almost as if this 80s movie, they didn't really care about the plot holes. They just wanted to put something fun together and throw it on screen. It's almost like they didn't figure out every single detail that we were going to talk about 40 years later.
They didn't have the internet. They didn't have assholes like us who were like,
wait a minute. It's not 40 years later already, Tex. It's not quite.
Well, you get my point.
It's close.
I don't need semantics here. You get my point.
I'm just saying. I was born in 81 and I'm not that old yet for this to be 40 years old.
Okay. My apologies for my apologies for your sensibilities of how old you are. My apologies.
Thank you. Thoughtful of you.
I'm not old either.
Let's see. One of the reasons for the no bright lights rule was that in 1984, director Joe Dante and Amblin could not completely navigate the perilous waters of special effects for the Gremlins puppets all that well. By keeping them in the dark, this camouflaged the problems. This is an old sci-fi trick. Dante did the same
Oh.
thing with the tricky and lumpy practical effects for The Howling in 1981, 3 years earlier. They kept the monsters in the dark to hide the special effects problems.
That's fair.
Interesting.
And
That's
for that reason right there is why I'm not really a big fan of, oh, this is the 4K transition of Friday the 13th 3D, because whenever they brighten it up to 4K, you can see the fishing line where that eyeball is sliding and this is coming from here.
Yeah.
Just because not every film, like I'm sure y'all seen the 4K version of Chainsaw 74. It doesn't need to be pretty. The older one looks better, I'm telling you. It's just not everything needs to be updated.
When Jeremy and I talked about that movie forever ago, I even said that one of the things I like about that movie is the grainy sepia quality of the film.
Yes, that's the character in it.
It adds something to the viewing experience.
Yeah,
like modern day stuff, I'm okay with it being crisp and clear and vibrant colors. But there is something about the way that there's a haze around the border of that film. It's almost like looking at an old picture from the 70s that's got that kind of quality to it. It's that viewing experience kind of takes you back in time a little bit, and it's something that's uniquely immersive to that film.
Right. Well, it gives it character as well. That's what I'm saying.
They did that for a video game too, for Silent Hill. They couldn't get the game to load fucking fast enough, so that's why all that fog is actually in Silent Hill, because they're like, we're gonna hide it, and it's loading. It's loading. The game's loading a little bit in the background. But that became this iconic thing, is the fog that's in like Silent Hill. I'm like, but that's a clever way to hide it, because your game couldn't run that fast and it couldn't load, so they hid it behind the fog. I'm like, that works.
There's also another Steven Spielberg property that, due to the budget and not being able to get the creature right in Jaws, you don't see the shark till the very end. And guess what? That's still the standard bearer for every shark movie that's ever came out, and it works. You don't feel like you're missing anything because you don't see the shark in every shot. It's all in execution.
Yeah, the reveal is important too, and if you reveal too early in the movie what the bad guy looks like or what the monster looks like, it kind of you don't get a chance to build tension the same way.
Right.
You know what I mean? The reveal of the gremlin for this is like they tease it for a couple of scenes, then you finally kind of see them in full glory. I would rather a lot of that stuff that went on in the kitchen would have been kind of not off camera, but kind of peripheral. And then when there's like one gremlin left and she's got to deal with that gremlin, that's when you get a full reveal. Like you see like Stripe kind of climb up on the counter and just look at her. And that's when you finally get the reveal. That would have built a little bit more tension. I wouldn't have wanted to wait till like the end of the movie or somewhere like late in the second act or something like that to do it. I think it would have been better if it had built more tension throughout that scene. Okay. That's how I would have done it. But, let's see. Did you know that Judd Nelson and Emilio Estevez were both considered for the role of Billy?
Wow.
I believe that.
Emilio Estevez would have been great, I think.
Emilio Estevez would have been good.
They needed a cute heartthrob to get people in the theater. Just like for the boys, they needed the girl with the pool scene, whatever,
Well, I mean, when did the Breakfast Club come out? Let me look real quick.
It was 85, right?
85 or 86.
I think it was 85.
Because when did that come out?
I think it was 85.
I can't remember the name of, and I was trying to think of while I was watching this, but you could take this dude right here, Zach Galligan, and the dude that starred in American Werewolf in London, and swap them, and they look exactly the same. Almost down to the dress, they look exactly the same. Haircut, it's like they're cousins or something. It is crazy how close they are.
And Naughton from that movie was relatively unknown.
Yeah.
He was not a big name when he was cast in that movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't know about Judd Nelson. He's got, even back then in the 80s, he had kind of a tough guy thing about him.
Yeah. I
like the fact that the Billy character is a bit, I don't want to say soft. He's small town. You know what I mean? Well, I don't know how else to say it. I'm sorry. I mean, they might insult somebody, but
naive, maybe.
Yeah, that's one way of saying it. Never having been in a position to grind the way that maybe someone like Judd Nelson had grinded. Emilio Estevez probably would have fit it pretty well, but I like what we got from. I like what we got from the cast.
But let's be honest here. when you go back to the 80s and with movies like this, you could say, oh, well, we also considered Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Corey Feldman, the other Corey, Judd Nelson. Just generic names. Johnny Depp is another one you could throw out there. A lot of these guys were big in Hollywood at the time. They were the ones on the cover of the Teen Heartthrob magazines. They were everywhere. They were always considered for these roles because they were the guys. So, for a factoid, you could just throw, oh, well, Johnny Depp actually wanted to be blah, 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 or whatever. And you're technically right because these were the stars of the era. So, I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Also, one of the things I read on the casting note, one of the things I read about this was that they were kind of hesitant to cast Phoebe Cates in this as well, because just the year before she had done Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was much more racy, dealt with a couple of more touchy subjects. I mean, that movie deals with abortion, it deals with teen sex, it deals with drug use. It deals, she had, of course, the famous bikini scene. So a lot of people that were involved in the making of the film kind of looked at her and they're like, we don't know if she can play this homely small town bank teller girl in that shirt with the poopy shoulders and all that stuff, because it was literally months ago that they were seeing her in the red bikini, trying to give blowjob lessons in the cafeteria at high school.
Oh
You know what?
Yeah.
With a Karen. I mean, it's like, can we really have that girl play this very homely,
If I were,
It's called Range, damn it.
if I were making this film, I'm putting her in a Christmas themed string bikini as the poster. That's how I'm marketing, buddy. I'm gonna have every butts in seat. So, like I said, you just wait till I make my movies. You just wait. I got ideas.
To be fair, speaking of Ghostbusters, did they really think a few years before that you had Sigourney Weaver being Ellen Ripley, like this fucking badass ass kicking woman, and then in Ghostbusters she kind of has to be like a damsel in distress a little bit. I mean, she still kind of got the she's Sigourney Weaver, but it's like, yeah, you have somebody who's no problem torching a bunch of fucking aliens, but then it's like, oh crap, there's marshmallows and shit and eggs exploding in my kitchen, and there's a whole demon dimension in my fridge.
Well,
but
to be fair, talking about
Range.
didn't Frank earlier in this review, didn't you bring up how Michael Keaton was a comedic actor that got Batman?
True.
Is that not Range as an actor? You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Mom being Batman, damn it.
Right, you got Mr. Mom to tell your friends about me. Like, okay, like that's not a leap, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
Now let's get into. You want some horror connections, Tex? Let me give you this one.
Sure.
In the scene in the department store where Stripe attacks Billy with a chainsaw was actually not in the script. It was added very late in the production by director Joe Dante and Zach Galligan as an homage to one of their favorite movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974.
The greatest movie ever made. Yes, I agree.
My all-time favorite horror movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, to be fair, okay. Obviously, I knew the chainsaw scene. I always have to deduct a pointage. Electric chainsaws suck. I don't know if y'all ever use one or not. They are horrible. They have no velocity. They have no horsepower. They just, you got to get some of that good old American fuel in there to really carve somebody up with that dude. So, get you a gas powered saw. Just look at the little Leatherface. The man knows his saws, okay? He knows how to cut you up, serve you up. He'll give you some good barbecue. I know I've had it before. But, get you a gas chainsaw.
I was going to say, as a haunt actor, trust me, there's something about a fucking gas saw. It's not.
Oh, yeah. The smell of those fumes coming out while you're oh, it's just great.
Especially when, I know now I've got an ear for it when I can hear one rev and I'm like, wow, that sounds shit. Or it's like, that thing sounds like a fucking monster. You know what I mean? Because we've got some. Now I've seen I went to a haunt where a guy was like, he just looked like a clown. He came out of like a cornfield, but it's not scary when I see the cord behind you running with your fucking saw and he's stopped.
Yeah,
it's like, all I gotta do is walk up to you, buddy, and just go click. Now you're done. You know what I mean?
Just kick the cord. Just kick the cord. All you gotta do. You're fine.
That
pull it out of the wall.
Man. Yeah, I was like, that's not really scary. It doesn't hit
the
same way.
I will say, I do appreciate the nod to chainsaw with the end of the movie. That was a nice touch. paying homage to the king, of course. But it's one of those things.
Groovy.
Let me hit you guys with this one real quick. I'm going to read you some movies, and I want you to try to figure out what they all have in common. Okay, so Airplane, the original comedy from the Zucker brothers.
Mhm.
Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Problem Child, Jurassic Park, and The World Is Not Enough. What do all those movies have in common?
Something with music, I bet.
No.
World is not enough in the James Bond
Is
movie.
it composers
Yes.
for the...
Okay.
Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie.
It's not studio because Universal owns the Halloween and they don't own the rest of the other stuff. It's not director, maybe producer or something.
No.
Actually, Joe Dante was offered to direct all those movies and turn them down.
Really?
Wow. If you go look up directors on Wikipedia, many of them have this area called unrealized projects. Let me read you a couple of these. He was offered Airplane in the late 70s and turned it down. He was offered Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch, and turned it down. He was offered Halloween 4, turned it down. He was offered in the early 80s an early attempt of a Batman film that would have starred John Lithgow as the Joker, and turned it down.
Huh.
I'd like to see that.
One of my favorite movies, Problem Child with John Ritter. He was offered that and turned it down. He was offered Jurassic Park and turned it down. He was offered, let's see, the movie Casper that came out in the 90s with Bill Pullman and Christina Ricci. He was offered that.
I like that movie.
He was offered The Phantom and turned it down, the one that came out in 96, which is kind of a goofy, silly. It's a little bit of a, Is that
the one with Billy Zane in that purple outfit?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, that movie's garbage. Oh, that movie's bad. Oh, that's horrible.
He was offered a live-action film adaptation of the cartoon series The Jetsons and turned it down.
Son of a...
that sucks.
He was offered The World Is Not Enough and ended up not directing that. Let's see. He was offered The Sixth Day, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where they He was offered a Godzilla sequel, a sequel to the movie Godzilla 2000. He was offered that and turned it down.
Oh, that was. Yeah, well, we don't talk about Godzilla 2000. That one didn't happen.
No.
Actually, it did. I liked it. Matthew Broderick.
Nope.
Not bad.
Didn't happen. Nope.
It happened in my world.
The design of Godzilla. What the hell?
I am invoking the Ghostbusters 2016 rule of erasing it from the timeline. I'm going to be Loki. That timeline's dead.
No.
In the 2000s, he was offered a movie that ended up not getting made called Bat Out of Hell. It was an indie horror film written by Drew McWeeny. God, that's a great name, Drew McWeeny, and Scott Swan about airplane
hijackers. Get picked on in high school.
Yeah, not at all. About airplane hijackers who confront monstrous cargo. That's got B-rate horror movie written all over, and it sounds like a lot of fun. Somebody needs to get that movie made.
Yeah, that is straight up exploitation. Oh yeah, 100%.
He was offered, a movie called Fear Paris, which was retitled from Paris, I Kill You, a horror anthology film with segments to have been directed by Dante, Xavier Gens, and Timo Verensola. Let's see, who has worked on things like, basically a bunch of crap. He directed the film Iron Sky. I mean, I'll give him a little bit of credit for at least trying. Let's see. Have you guys seen Iron Sky?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't generally believe in people that say a movie is so bad it's good, but goddamn, that movie's so hilarious to watch. The movie is a spoof of like all life. The basic plot of the movie is that as Hitler realizes he's losing World War II, he puts a bunch of Nazis on rocket ships, flies them to the moon, and puts them in a base on the far side of the moon for 40 or 50 years. In the early 2000s, they've spent the last 60 years having kids and building up this master race, blah, 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 until they decide to all get on rockets and come back to take over the world. And it's
that sounds hilarious.
The president of the United States is some obvious play on fuck girl from Alaska, Sarah Palin. It's some obvious play on Sarah. It's just so goofy, and it really.
I know what I'm watching this week.
They've made like 4 of them now, and they I swear to God, I think total they've made about 27 cents at the box office. But the first one is
you said it's Iron Sky, right?
I'm gonna look that up right now.
It's Iron Sky.
Okay, I need to know where I can watch this because I feel a marathon.
The third or fourth movie I haven't seen. The second one was just awful. It was just bad. It was obvious they were just trying to cash in on the little bit of attention the first one got. The first one, though, was actually kind of entertaining.
My good bad movie is Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. Like on that scale, where does it rank?
Fantastic in that.
Oh, incredible! So is it as good bad as Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing film, or is it like where does it lie?
I think Van Helsing is a better film.
Okay.
Hey,
wow.
I was never impressed by Van Helsing. I mean, if somebody's watching it, I'll watch it. But I don't ever come home after a long day of work and be like, you know what, you want to watch Van Helsing.
I've seen that Van Helsing movie like 15 times. I actually love that movie.
I love it. I do. It is. I dig that movie. I should not like that movie as much as I do, but I love that movie. I can't help it.
Oh, yeah. Tex, you're going to be happy to know that Iron Sky is free on Tubi.
Sweet. There we go.
I'd be happy to not pay for that movie. Trust me.
I don't have to pay for it or sail the high seas to find it. That's always fun. So.
Yeah, a couple of more recently, the 2010s. I don't know. Tell me if you've heard this one before. He was offered a movie called Ombra Amor, which is retitled from Monster Love. It's a horror comedy written by Greg Pak about a werewolf and a vampire who fall in love.
Okay.
That sounds too much like
that one didn't hit my radar.
Let's see. He was offered a movie called Air Disturbance. It was a horror thriller written by Jeremy Sklar, starring Robert Englund and Dylan Walsh. I mean, you put Robert Englund in anything, I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a look.
Robert Englund has been in 1,000 movies because after he got done doing Freddy Krueger after Freddy vs. Jason, he's been in so many low budget horror films. Honestly, that's where some of his best stuff came from. If you haven't seen 2000, it's either 2000 or 2001 Maniacs. He plays this Confederate.
That's a good movie. That's a good movie.
That and in Zombie Strippers. In Zombie Strippers, it's one of my all-time favorite zombie movies. Robert Englund plays a strip club owner who doesn't like strippers because they're dirty, and he carries around a can of aerosol spray. Anytime they get near him, he goes, ooh, ooh, and sprays at them, because they're filthy nasty. So go find Zombie Strippers. It stars Jenna Jameson and a few other porn stars. But, it's a fun one.
But we got Jeremy back here, so I got to hit you with it. The human body count, Jeremy. What do you think it was? The human body count.
Oh,
you gonna give me a number, or do I have to just guess?
Let's see. We'll go. I'll give you the over/under at 6.
Okay.
I think it's 10.
Yeah, I was gonna go over. I'll do 7. I'll go right under her. 7.
What do you think, Tex?
So Cora's at 10.
People?
No,
just
it's humans.
Just people.
Just people.
Okay.
So Cora's at 10. Jeremy's at 7.
7.
Oh, I'll go 5 just to be a little bit different. I don't know.
$1.
According to IMDb, the human body count was 4.
Damn.
But here's what I find really hilarious. Here's what I find really hilarious about the way they have it on there. It says human body count 4, and then in parentheses it says confirmed. It's like you haven't confirmed the rest of these body counts for some reason.
Bullshit. If I had done my math homework in fucking high school and just wrote confirmed instead of show my work, fuck you.
Well, see, if you took this the other way and you wanted to do the body count of the Gremlins, you're going to have to freeze frame on that. Well, on the kitchen scene in the movie theater scene and count how many seats, because that whole thing was full.
100.
And if you just assume one gremlin per seat, which realistically you could probably fit a couple in each seat, you're going to have to get creative with your math. But I'm overthinking this because it's a stupid game and the rules don't matter. So why am I even talking right now?
Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah. But,
I feel like Drew Carey right now. What the crap?
Right.
Let me get your guys' final thoughts. I'll start with you, Lady Cora. Final thoughts on Gremlins from 1984.
Watch it, enjoy it, and as someone who really does not like horror, scary movies, you can enjoy this movie. So don't be shy of it if you're like me, not into that other stuff, because this is actually pretty funny and entertaining. Just ignore how annoying the dad is. Just be happy you don't have relatives like
that guy's an idiot.
Yeah, who actually bought? Yeah, comment if you actually bought one of those stupid things in the 80s. Yeah, there was all kinds of stupid stuff like that floating around in the 80s. Tex, how about
Set
you?
it and forget it. You know,
Yeah.
you remember that?
Mm.
Yeah.
Tex, give us your final thoughts on Gremlins.
It's a Christmas movie that, like I said, I watch every December. I save it. Like I said, I normally save this for Christmas Eve. Just, I like to watch movies whenever the day of the movie happens, if I can. Fun 80s film. Don't have to overthink it. Cool character design. You get a gremlin flashing you, smoking 3 or 4 cigarettes at a time, guzzling beer, shooting children. I am all in favor of everything within this movie. So, thumbs up from Tex. So, all good.
Jeremy, how about you? What are your final thoughts on Gremlins?
Yeah, it's it's one of those classics that stood the test of time. So, and like I said, it's something you can watch it whenever. But yeah, it's something I would consider a Christmas movie. I mean, it's also kind of a monster, comedy kind of movie. Yeah, there's some really good effects, some good puppetry. With the duality of like something that's kind of adorable like Gizmo and something that's absolutely horrifying like Stripe. I mean, yeah, you kind of get the whole package, especially with a Pamela Voorhees Captain America mom who all of a sudden fucking massacre a bunch in her kitchen. So,
God, that's a great scene.
yeah, I mean, they went for it.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie and it's worth the watch. Trust me, it's. Like we've always said, go back and watch some of these movies. Even like me, I wasn't alive for this movie, obviously, but it's like I can still enjoy movies that I wasn't technically around for. Shit.
Yeah, for me again, it's one of the staples of any 80s catalog. If you like 80s movies, you're going to reach back to this one. It is. I would have liked to have had a little bit more horror, like the scene where the guy gets his head lopped off by the mom in the kitchen, the gremlin. I would like to have had that scene be a bit more fleshed out, so I could see the head detach from the body and fly across the kitchen and land in a blender or whatever. But I understand that they, the way that things were at the time, that maybe they wanted to tone it down and make it a bit more kid friendly. And it technically was a holiday set movie. Whether it's a Christmas movie or not, we can debate some other time.
Oh, you're treading. I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing.
We'll have a discussion on the charity stream on New Year's. But yeah, again, it's just a great 80s fare. I mean, I want to say it's one of those movies where you just turn your brain off and watch because you do want to approach it with a sensible point of view and say like, well, isn't any time after midnight of last night and blah blah blah. But I mean, just don't do that. Just enjoy the ride that you're on. Again, not great. I mean, the cinematography is pretty good. Not great character work because the 80s they were still working some of that shit out. But for me, it's kind of a classic must watch. I mean, it's got to be something you watch on a regular basis. You can sit and watch this with your kids at a couple different ages, and they will kind of see it differently. It's like you can watch it as a kid, and they get wrapped up in Gizmo, and they get wrapped up in all these scary monsters, and the monsters get killed at the end, and they're fine. But then as they get older, the teenagers will kind of see it a little bit differently, and then eventually, when you become an adult, you'll see it a little bit differently. Yeah. And it's not just the nostalgia; you'll get some of the jokes, you'll get some of the positions that they're in, things like that. So it kind of hits you a little differently as you watch it as you get older. But yeah, it's the must watch for any fan of 80s cinema, especially. And yes, for those of you who are wondering, they look exactly like Furbies. Furbies were designed to look just like Gizmo, only they changed the ears a little bit. I actually read that as well. So yes, they're still getting well at the time when Furbies were a big deal anyway, back in the early 2000s or whatever the hell that was.
I can remember people fist fighting at Toys R Us.
That was
a certain one. I can remember that. That was crazy.
Yes, they were designed to look just like Gizmo. So yeah, the marketing never really ended. But yeah. And again, go down in the comments below. Let us know if you guys think there should be a third movie, and if there is, what do you think it would look like? What would you do with the plot? I personally would like to see a sequel that wraps up the Gremlins trilogy. Bring Joe Dante back; he's still directing stuff. Bring the actors back. I mean, they're all still out there. They're all still active. Bring them all back, and let's finish up the Gizmo Zach. I almost called him Zach Galifianakis.
No, why not?
Bring back Phoebe Cates. Bring them all back. Bring back Zach Galligan. Bring them all back. Let's complete the trilogy, and then maybe 10 or so years down the line, we can kind of reboot it, put it in the modern time. But yeah, go down in the comments. Let us know what you guys thought of Gremlins from 1984. Thanks to all my great co-hosts for being so awesome. Starting with the Dowager Countess Lady Cora. Where can the folks at home find you, man?
I'm allergic to the internet except for coming to your channel, so
That's fair.
here.
Where else do you need to see her but here?
Yep.
And to the shape from Lone Star State, my man Tex. What do you got going on, my friend?
Well, I figured since I did a recommendation for Halloween films, I'm going to do a recommendation for Christmas horror films that you should be watching immediately. The first and maybe my
Everybody
best suggestion.
mute right now.
Don't listen to that faceless voice above my head. Cora is just our AI program that we create to make you think she's real. She's just a computer. But the Christmas horror I'm recommending for this episode, it's exclusively on Shudder, but you can get a free 30-day free trial. Just Google it. You don't have to pay anything. Christmas Bloody Christmas. It's from 2022. It's if Rob Zombie were to direct a Christmas film, this would be it. It's got hot chicks, lots of whiskey drinking, just F-bombs all over the place, arguing about rock and roll. The killer in this film is a robot that was created by the U.S. government to fight wars that they repurposed into toy store Santas that go haywire and start butchering people with an axe. This is a fun movie to watch. It's got a real cool neon color palette, very bright looking film. It's very eye catching. The first 20 minutes are kind of slow, then the kills pick up. Like Christmas Bloody Christmas. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun.
And to my hetero life mate, Jeremy, what do you got going on the internet, sir?
Well, he said, hot women, whiskey drinking, F-bombs, and rock and roll. You sure that movie wasn't made about me? Holy shit.
Hey,
damn.
I'll give you one of the lines. At one point, because this is a small cast, at one point, one of the lines is there's a husband and wife, they're making a bet. And the bet is if the friends are going to hook up, and on the line is she gets naked and cooks him a steak. And if he loses, he has to eat her ass during sex. So that's the kind of film that you're dealing with there. So high quality, highbrow stuff. That's just a fair warning.
That's certainly something.
A typical day for me, I guess. Okay, well, anywho, I guess the busiest parts of the year are kind of over for me now. I kind of forgot about Comic-Con, and obviously if anyone hasn't noticed, I sound like absolute dog shit. But because I was laid up on my birthday, which was also Thanksgiving, so I missed out. That was a double whammy. And then I felt fine for a week, went to Comic-Con, and I came back, and now I sound like this. So I don't know. It's around a lot of people, but it was a lot of fun. But I think now, because basically it's always Halloween, but it's basically Halloween for me from like freaking July till now. Because there's Cave and then there's like Comic-Con, so that's now that's over. I'm kind of I'm half on the saddle. I'm not complete. I got like one leg over the horse right now. I might fall off. I don't know, but yeah, I'm here. I'm on. I refuse to call it X. It's Twitter, whatever. YouTube, Twitch, but I don't do shit because I'm a terrible content creator. But however, I was talking about Comic-Con, and I'm going to. I was muting myself and shit because I didn't want you guys to hear me cough. But on one of those, I actually ran back there and I went and got it because I think it's just the coolest fucking thing ever, and this is gonna be my next cosplay. But this was the helmet that I got.
That's freaking sweet.
This thing is solid, and it's actually really heavy.
Wow.
And it's pretty accurate. Like he had two different versions of this helmet. With the fact that the trailer for Fallout just came out, this is kind of a good time to do this because this is from New Vegas, one of my favorite factions. And this thing is pretty damn accurate to the markings to the side. He also had the desert version, which has like the writing on the front and like all the places they've been on the back. And I was debating it, but I was like, you know what? This is going to be it. And I'm not going to put it on. But I think this might be my next cosplay for the con in the spring. So
There we
I'm
go.
happy about it. I was like, you know what? I got to have a big purchase for myself. I'm just going to love myself. I probably sat there doing this while I was talking to the guy. Like, I was actually holding on to it, like, you know.
Like a girl on
It's
Black
okay to-
Friday getting the expensive shoes she's been wanting all year that
Pretty
are now
much.
70% off only in her size and her favorite color. And you're like,
I think
Hey,
so.
It's okay to talk to it.
No, yeah,
It's
because
okay
I
to
was
talk to it as long as it doesn't talk back to you. That's when you know you've went too far. If you're hearing voices, tell
Yeah.
somebody.
and don't put it somewhere in your house where it'll freak people out when they turn around a corner or something and go, what the?
Do you understand? Look, I will literally reach right now. Do you understand what is in my house? I think that's the least. Actually, you know what? I'll even right in front of it. Look at this.
We're talking about. I live in a
Oh,
chainsaw
no.
house. Look,
No.
I live in a
I think
chainsaw
people
house.
are kind of already, you know.
All right, then you're just on point. I get it.
Yeah, this wouldn't look out of place. But I was like, if I'm going to make some big purchase, it's going to be on the last day of the con. And honestly, excuse me, honestly, these things probably go for about twice of what he was asking for. So I'm like, you know what? I got a good deal.
Is it comfortable to wear?
Yeah, it's actually pretty comfortable.
You
It's
don't
got
sweat in it too much, and you don't like.
no, there's some big pads in there. And like I said, it's heavy, but like they
Yeah.
cushion really well. I found a bandana that I was going to wear with it, and then I was
You
actually
can
going to
paint
get
it
a
pink.
microphone. I could. I don't really.
I'm joking.
For what I paid for it, though, no. Could, but no.
Well,
I'm
I'm pretty
that's
sure
great. You
Jeremy's
got
sleeping
something
with
you
us
love.
tonight.
You know what? Not even joking. The first night we came back, and like I brought it with me. I was taking stuff out. I sat it down on the bed, and while we were watching YouTube, I was like, "Oh, it's going to bed with us. It stays on." I was already sitting. It was just sitting in front of me. I was like on the bed. I was like, "Yep, it comes with me. Damn it."
Jeremy just created a whole new kink he didn't realize he had wearing that thing to bed. So he just
That'd be
opened
a-
up a whole nother door.
If you
That'd
want to
be
creep
a
your
feat.
neighbors out, attach some ties to it and have it sway left and right,
Ooh.
just on the edge of the curtains. You
Yeah,
know.
just like some Kevin McAllister type shit, where it's just like
Yeah.
moving and like looking at people and shit. Yeah, I might put some lights in it because the visor does light up, like the eyes light up red.
Oh, hang on. Rachel says yet to be seen. ... We all know what that means. It's gonna get exciting in the
You didn't say
the
no.
Grimm household.
So you're
Wear it at
So
your
you're
wedding,
telling me
Jeremy.
there's a chance.
so you're
It
telling
could
me
be
there's a
part of your
chance.
wedding outfit.
That'd be kind of awesome, actually, to be honest. Actually, they do wear the brown like a brown like trench coat, and my colors is like brown and like green. So I'm like, yeah, that helmet would slip on pretty well.
Maybe
And it
for
would
a
work.
couple of the pictures, you could do just bring it to the wedding photo shoot
Just
you
everybody
know?
have a yeah.
and just do a couple funny photos with Rachel with it.
Oh my god, that'd be so fucking funny. I would love
There you
that.
go.
You guys' wedding better be cosplay. Like everybody's gonna come dressed as a character from a video.
That's
game.
what I'm saying. Like you told me I could have fucking lightsabers, damn it. Yeah, look, he even said
married
it.
by like
She writes,
He even said it.
unfortunately.
It would match the wedding. That's what I just said because I've got like brown on and shit, and they wear a brown trench coat with that helmet. So
Do you know what'd be cool is if you walk down the aisle with it on before she comes down the aisle and you're standing up there and you only take it off right as she comes into the room.
just like, all right, you may kiss the bride.
You know,
All
yeah,
right.
like that's your veil, the groom veil.
Oh my god, that'd be
Grimm veil.
Like right as she first comes up, then you take it off.
exactly
I'm so sorry, Rachel. We're trying to ruin your wedding. We're trying to ruin your big day.
pretty much.
Hey, you
You knew
know,
what you
this
signed
isn't
up
just
for,
her
you said
day.
yes.
This isn't just her day. Jeremy gets to have some fun on his wedding day too, by God. So we got to take care of our boy, you know what I mean? So, just saying.
But as for me, you will find me back here on Tuesday. Jeremy, you better rest your voice this weekend, man, because I'm going to need you for Tuesday. We're going to be
Fine.
doing Logan. Maybe
Oh my
the
god.
best comic book movies ever made. Transcends comic book movies.
I agree.
Should have
agree.
been nominated. Did not because people at the Oscars do not like comic book movies. But
Dude.
man, Me and Jeremy have been talking about getting into this movie for a while. We are finally getting to it on
Can't
Tuesday.
wait.
I am big time looking forward to that. Also, don't forget, the charity stream will be set up at some point, probably the next week or so. We'll be doing that New Year's Eve, the charity stream that I've been promising for the Abandoned Pet Project. Any donations on that stream will go to the Abandoned Pet Project. They help get abandoned pets from shelters. They're about to be euthanized, put down, killed. They nurse them back to health and help them find forever homes with owners that will give them love. Again, the pandemic was really bad about people going to get animals for companionship. And then once the pandemic was over, a lot of them were sent back to kennels, to shelters, or some of them just released in the street to live as well as they could on their own. A lot of animals were killed that way. Fights with their animals, starvation, things like that. The Abandoned Pet Project is working very, very hard to try to rehome these animals and give them a chance at the kind of life they deserve. So New Year's Eve is going to be a late one. We're going to go from whenever we start till all time zones in America have celebrated New Year's. We will raise a glass at midnight in every time zone to make sure that we celebrate. So that's going to be a fun night. Any donations we get that night will go to the Abandoned Pet Project. So looking forward to that. I'll have that stream set up at some point in the next week or so. But thank you guys very much for coming to hang out with us. We very much appreciate it. I want to thank my amazing co-host for being so awesome. Jeremy, thank you so much. We will see you guys Tuesday for Logan. Until next time, have a good weekend. Adios.
I hope my facial hair grows back in time, because that is kind of the look I opt to go for, is like just the chops, and I just cut like just the goatee shit off because it annoys me. So
Right.
hopefully it comes back.
There was no boobs, but there was enough murder in this to satisfy you, Tex. I mean, there was a whole lot of crazy.
We got. There was Gremlin.
Oh, Phoebe
Okay,
Cates,
the
come
flesh-
on.
The flashing gremlin, does that count as nudity? Because I'm not counting that.
We were trying to talk about their